Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, speculating and commiserating on the future of college football's postseason. Everybody's freaking out about a 16-team field, but I know why it's good news for John Q, college football fan, and John Q, Red Raider.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use our code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year with the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you. Hope it was an excellent Mother's Day weekend for all the mothers and the mother lovers. Hope it was fantastic for everyone involved. As we kick off this week, Chris, on today's episode, we're going to get into the future, which is maybe a little bit closer to the present than some might assume. We're talking about the ongoing evolution of college football's postseason. There was a meeting of Power Conference leadership in New York last week, and reporting on the other side of that, getting a lot of attention primarily from Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports. So we'll get to how this potential 16-team landscape affects the national picture, more importantly, affects our local picture. Obviously, we're considering our own selfish Red Raider interests right here in the 806. We'll get to that in just a moment. We'll get to what is going to continue to be a point of contention, I'm sure, automatic qualifying bids. We'll get the lay of the land there as those numbers look according to some of these most recent conversations. Chris, to kick off the conversation, this is written about almost every day of the year. There's somebody out there kicking out some thought on the future of this thing. I'm kind of curious why the steam is gathering here most recently, and I know it's in large part based on these meetings, but it sort of seems like some of the stuff that we're seeing put out there as far as a possible picture of what this looks like is not so much hypothetical anymore. We're starting to see some things that, I don't know, are resembling what the reality is going to be. You think I'm describing it correctly?
Yes, and for those of you all watching Cowan and I, yes, there was a memo for us to wear a black shirt with white buttons on it, but, no, I'm kidding.
It's a team effort.
That's right. That's right. I think, there's been a series of meetings. There were some in Dallas several weeks ago. There was some recently, as you just mentioned. I think they've tried to run the PR game a little bit. They've floated different things. There was the TV ratings thing. Hey, we could get into some of these buys are dictated by who's got TV ratings, but you're hearing more about it, and you're starting to see the reality of the fact that this is going to happen at some level now, because I think they're under the gun. I don't know exactly what their deadline is, but I think it's in the next 30 to 60 days where they feel like they've got to get something down and on paper and agreed to and negotiated with ESPN or whatever it may be. And the reason is because I think that some of the components to this, because keep in mind, folks, that this is not ideal for Texas Tech and the Big 12, but this is a scenario, Calvin always talks about, when you have the gold, you make the rules. I think, did I quote you correctly there? Is that right?
Yes. And whoever I'm quoting, we're quoting them correctly.
Yeah, that's right. There are some components in these negotiations or this kind of potential agreement that I think need to be vetted out. They need to be okay. Like, if we're going to do this, and then we're doing this, then we need to kind of move on. And then, like, some of that is we will go to 16 teams. It's almost like they're saying, okay, we'll give in and we'll go to 16 teams. They're the ones that want this, but I think they're negotiating with ESPN, the SEC specifically, in that, okay, we'll do a ninth conference game if we will go to a 16-team playoff, meaning it takes a little bit of sting away from a loss in the regular season. It widens home plate a bit to create more access. I think there's also a component of the SEC and Big Ten schedule alliance that I think they're trying to figure out, okay, what parameters do we have on the regular season? Is that, how much of a factor would that be in the 16 team? Or are we saying, hey, we're kind of de-emphasize it a bit because we're creating more access. We're guaranteeing 4 bids. And people are hung up on different things. But some of what I'm telling you here, these are revenue generators. These are, it's follow the money, right? I think that everybody feels like more football playoff, on that stage creates more money. Not necessarily, but I think they're trying to figure out, and we'll get into that too, on an expanded playoff may not generate more money from the folks that are invested with you in that, and we'll get into that because that has to do with the NFL. But there's just lots of things that are tied to an expanded playoff on what a regular season would look like. You've got the calendar that you're having to deal with. And so I think that there's a bit of a sense of urgency to try to get something agreed to. Again, this year, the 2025 season, this upcoming fall, nothing changes. It's like last year. 5 automatic, bids and the seating. And that's part of the negotiation too, is that I think that's really the only leverage a league like the Big 12 has right now, as they're trying to adjust the seating immediately for this year. And the Big 12 is saying, no, we want our guaranteed bid and we want a guaranteed buy. That is money to us. It's the only leverage we've got. So we're gonna flex on what, your bicep may be drooping a bit as you flex, but this is the only leverage you've got right now. And you're trying to utilize that while you have it, because at some point very, very soon you will have no leverage.
Sure would like for you to add something after that was a little rosier. Is there anything else you'd like to finish?
Well,
no leverage, kind of an abrupt ending.
And this is all how people want to view it, because there's a big conversation to have here. I could really sell you this on how this is good for Texas Tech. I could sell you on the fact that this is not good, or there's a happy medium there. Do we want to play that game and kind of say, hey, let's play the cons first, and then we can play the pros in a second? But like the bad part about this is that you're right. You are, Rosie or however you want to phrase it. You're not going to be in charge at some point after this year. You have negotiated that away. That is the reality of the scenario that you are in, at least in the short term. And I say short term is in the next 3 to 5 years, when this current playoff agreement is under contract, which I think is it's like 30 or 31. And that's what I mean. I think that your league would be viewed as, less than potentially. And not necessarily if you've got teams that get into this deal and they make noise and they, like your basketball programs have done, you've earned a lot of respect. And it's not what you do in the regular season. It's what you're doing in March, and the fact that your teams have either played for or won national championships. That's what's earned you respect.
You got to go win games at the most important point of the year.
Yes. And maybe you are viewed a bit different if Arizona State does beat Texas last year. I don't know. I doubt it. I think they would have been, that's a fluke. What you got to do this and have some consistency to it.
Yeah.
But that, that's it's about narratives, and it's about some of those things. But the positives, you mentioned 806 interests. I don't, and we've said this on these airwaves before, but I just don't know if you can expect to, under the current set of circumstances, to have much better than a guaranteed 2 spots. If I tell you 2 of your 16 teams are going every single year, I think you'd be very naive to think that some of these at-large bids that would be out there, like some of this extra that they would build into a 16-team format, that I think those would go to the other 2 leagues. So really, when they're saying we want guaranteed 4 bids for each of these leagues, I think they're probably going to get a 9th and maybe a 10th too. And I can't remember exactly. It was 4-4, 2-2, 1-1. So maybe there's just a one at-large bid, but that's going to go to one of those 2 leagues would be my guess. But 2 teams going, it just creates access. I think it's more access than you have now. It makes the end of the season and regular seasons for you anyway a bit more meaningful. And there's a whole conference title game conversation to have, because this has to do with revenue generation. This has to do with increasing access within your own league. I guess I viewed this as, I think this is going to happen, and this may be the best you can do with it. So, don't, and maybe you're secretly like okay with it. The leadership is, but you're fighting it tooth and nail in public, and you're saying this isn't, because what happens if you expand it to 16 and you say, okay, we're not going to do all these automatic bids? You theoretically could end up with.
First, today's episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all the money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it can be easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. You're going to love the all-in-one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money today. Use our code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com and our code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year.
What happens if you expand it to 16 and you say, okay, we're not going to do all these automatic bids? You theoretically could end up with 7 SEC teams in this deal. I mean, who's to say you don't? If you just say we're doing 16, and then that creates a lot more interest in the regular season and your non-conference scheduling and all the like. But you would hope to still get one then, but you're certainly not, potentially getting 2. So there's different ways to view it and look at it, and I certainly understand all aspects. I just view it as, this situation sucks. This may be about the best thing you can do with it. So embrace it and then attack what you can control.
I see so much moaning and groaning out there about it, not just representing Big 12 interests, but from a lot of people, whether it's marginal media members or whatever it might be, and then just ordinary fans. I got to tell you, I don't get it. I don't know what you're bitching about. I don't get it at all. As a college football fan, number one, this is Xanadu. Whenever you sent this article to me, Chris, I emailed you back and said, I can't believe all my 2010 college football dreams are coming true. This is insane. And this is marking, in a good way, and this is marking the end of what was the stupidest running postseason format of any major American sport. You couldn't defend it. It was insane. The regular season is our postseason, except that weekend where the SEC takes turns beating up Nicholls State. Don't look at that weekend. It was crazy. Like the bowl format at one point in time, based in regional tourism, when people were traveling to these games via train, and you got your news via yarn and sets of cans. Like, I get it then, but for a long time, it's been outdated and antiquated. So the thought of this 16-team thing is just scratching me right where I itch. 100+ years in the making, they made the wise choice of saying, okay, we got 5 power conferences. We got group of 5 interests. What should we do? 14 playoff. What? So you trotted out first another insane idea. We put that behind us now. And we're getting into something that I think as a college football consumer finally serves college football consumers in a much better way. So I don't want to forget that, number one. Number two, the ideal situation for the Big 12, what are we talking about here? I mean, the ideal situation for me is Anna de Armas making my eggs and bacon every morning. But let's talk reality. The reality is, and you already said it, Chris, you actually have better access now than you did just in this format we're in. Yeah. So things have gotten better. And I know we're going to get more into a local perspective, but from that local perspective for programs of the ilk of Texas Tech, a better chance to settle it on the field, on the scoreboard, and outside of the committee room and the boardroom is always going to be a great thing. Because without that brand recognition, your benefit of the doubt in the boardroom is nil for the most part. So I'm chopping up a whole lot of positives. I got to be honest when I'm looking at this thing in its totality.
Love the bacon and eggs conversation there.
We've all got dreams.
Yes, we do.
But we've got reality too.
How much, as the general Texas Tech fan out there, how much better would you feel about your situation going into this season if you knew there were 2 spots available, as opposed to you're probably going to have to win the league, and that's what's happening. You're probably not in line for an at-large berth. But how much better would you feel if you knew there was a second spot to have? Or, okay, so let's play this out even further, because I think, and there's a revenue generation conversation to be had as it directly ties to what I'm about to get into, which is this is what Brett Yormark will be tasked with. If you do tie some of these leagues to these automatic bids and there's just one at large available, odds are you really need to just focus on, okay, how can we maximize these automatic bids? That's what we need to shoot for. Everything in our existence needs to be about trying to secure one of those. Okay, how do we do this? Brett Yormark and other league commissioners can get creative if they want to and generate some revenue in this, and also create more access with their own league or within their own league. So what if I tell you that you're going to have 2 league title games in Arlington every year, and that 4 teams from the league get to go, and we're going to have a Friday night and a Saturday morning winner take all deal, and those teams win the automatic bid. There's more inventory to sell. There's more very meaningful football to sell to your partners if you can. I don't know exactly how they would be able to handle it with the TV contract, but you see what I'm saying? I mean, this would be new. I mean, in other words, hey, let's take 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3. Winners get to advance, and that's who makes the playoffs. Okay, so now
I'm telling you, I'm interested in that. If you're telling me that,
yeah, and I mean, and I would be too. I'm coming at this from a Texas Tech standpoint that's never been to Arlington before, ever. And you're one of the programs that is in the old Big 12 that has actually never even participated in this game. So I'm looking for more ways and more forks in the road that takes me to Arlington, not less. And if you tell me that I've got to be in the top 4 of the league, sign me up. And then I control it. And I mean, and maybe you do it this way. Maybe, okay, they're not going to give us any more. They're not going to give us any more TV revenue for this. So let's give the first place team the automatic, the regular season champ, which I don't know how you're doing this with all the tiebreakers. Okay, so hear me out though. If you deem we're just going to have 1 league title game, you could give the first place team the regular season, or the highest ranked CFP team, however you want to get to that point. They get they get a spot, and then 2 versus 3 now play. Okay, well, even then you've increased the meaningful places in the standings from the top 2 to now 3, and maybe you can get to 4. I don't know how the SEC and Big Ten would do it. Maybe they give the first 2 teams buys, and then they do this semifinal idea, and you're increasing it from 6 to 8 opportunities or whatever. Anyway, I just think there's it creates more interest. It's a revenue generator. There's a lot of, and it's all about access. That is the key word here. And that's what again, you telling me right now with this Texas Tech team that you've got that, is either picked to win it, or, hey man, I'm not buying into that deal. They're middle of the pack, whatever. But you're telling me I just got to finish in the top 4 to find out. Yeah. I'd take it and run right now with no takebacks. That's just that's the way I would view it. Give me a chance. Just give me an opportunity to get to that place and let me do my thing and earn my way from there. But you got to get to that point first, and you were that close last year. So there's a lot of ramifications with an expanded playoff. The other problem that the playoff has, and this has to do with revenue generation as well, is that your partner in ESPN is saying, okay, y'all are wanting to give us more playoff games. We aren't necessarily seeing the appetite for that from a TV audience, and we don't exactly have a place to put these games because there's this albatross in the room, or this elephant or family of, called the NFL. They are owning all of these nights of the week and certain TV spots, and so we don't have a place to put these games to generate the revenue that you think that you want or you're owed. And so there's a bit of a dynamic there. There's also a dynamic that like with a 16-team playoff, everything could get – December would look vastly different, but so could August. I think what you're seeing, or what you would see, is that your first game this year is on August the 30th, I believe. Is this correct? Your
right.
first – yeah. I believe that under a 16-team format, it would be very realistic and very much on the table that starting the season, not just the way that the calendar falls, which is the way it does this year, this would be the norm. Like, you would be starting in that last weekend of August and multiple bye weeks, or however we want to get to that point, to stretch it out, because I think that the playoff will need to start a bit earlier. So you've got to bump everything. So there's just a lot of things going on here. This isn't just, hey, we want some automatic bids, we want the most money, we want a great December. No, there's all kinds of ramifications to these conversations, to where it makes the sport in so many ways look completely different.
Yeah, no question. And I know the revenue part of it is one of those things that you can't get around, as far as being concerning for those on the short end of that, because
Right.
I'm sure payouts and allotments for participation will continue to generate an even bigger gulf between the Big Ten and the SEC and others, if just year after year after year you're seeing those numbers stack up. I wish if you had a button to push. I don't think you do have a button to push. I don't think you have leverage. I wish if you had a button to push, you could make the powers that be in the SEC and the Big Ten decide between, all right, you want this massive number of AQ bids, then we're going to go ahead and cut you off in the at-large category. Or you want to roll the dice with a lesser AQ number, then we can dance in the at-large category. I know that's pure pie in the sky, whatever. But I do fear, like I know plenty of others do, that they get not only a larger automatic qualifier bid number, but then they're also getting busy in the at-large category, and that's gonna get a little dicey for everybody else. And I've said before, I do think, look, while recognizing some justification of a larger automatic qualifying bid number for those leagues, I think it should be maybe a one bid split as opposed to double the amount. But either way, they're not calling me asking about what rules I would like to have put in place, Chris. It's the SEC and the Big Ten show. But I think there also clearly is a reminder that you cannot cut out 65% of the power conference college football consuming public and expect it to just keep sailing down the path. There's still a large number represented among the ACC and the Big 12 as they stand today, who are ticket buying members of that public and television owning members of that public that will generate some revenue. So it can't just be a breakaway, walk away Super League type of thing.
And I can envision a scenario to where you've even got some of these teams in these two top leagues where their fan bases would be frustrated with what is going on with these conversations. You're probably sitting there in some cases going, man, it'd be nice to be them, or it would be, but let's just play it out this way. Say you are sitting there and you're a Roll Tide person. You're all about, Nick Saban and everything that they've done, and you felt hosed last year. Well, what if you widen home plate and you're saying we're gonna really create way more access for this league? And because if there's any fan base that would be very unhappy with, say, like a 9-3 season, it would be Alabama. However, in this proposed scenario, that very well may be good enough and easily good enough to make it into this playoff. To which case, if I'm the general Alabama fan sitting there and I'm not very well to do or well off or whatever, I'm like, so I'm paying all this money for all these regular season games, and now it doesn't really matter near as much because they can lose plenty and they can still get to where they want to go. So what am I doing living and dying by these results when we can die several times in the middle of a season and we can still make it to where we want to go? I'm not saying that would happen, but I think that there's some of that too. So while you're talking about alienating the folks that would be left out of such cases, you in some ways could be poking at the folks right in the middle of it that stand at face value a lot to gain from it, and you could hurt the instance there. Now that Alabama example,
Chris, I think before you leave that, I think they would mostly get around that eventually as far as acclimating their feelings to the ebb and flow of the season. But I do think there could be some beef from those crowds when you look at access in the ACC or the Big 12 and you wonder about those paths to get, kind of percentage-wise, if you could break it down, the odds to get to those 2 spots in those leagues versus one of those 4 or even 6 in those leagues. And I don't know, it'd be some similar, whether it's like an Arkansas, Ole Miss, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State comparison or something like that. But some may be looking over the fence and thinking, well, that path in the Big 12 or the ACC, that actually doesn't seem as much of a slugfest. Maybe I'm envious of that.
Yeah, because if you remember back to last year, it was, I think, South Carolina was kind of griping, Alabama was griping, Ole Miss was griping. Those were the 3 teams that, felt like, okay, we should have been in instead of whatever. Pick your argument on, whatever it was. I think from a Big 12 standpoint, you were saying, I think BYU had a really good gripe. There was some Colorado stuff. Iowa State obviously had a chance in the title game and lost. And that's the other thing too. I wouldn't, if you told me that you had these 2 Big 12 title games, if you will, amongst the top 4 teams and winners take all, I'd be real curious of how much griping you would get from anybody with an at-large if you actually had a chance and controlled your own destiny and fumbled it away. Like, hey man, all you have to do is win this game. What more could you ask for? We still think we should get to go. I think you'd be settling it in the fairest way possible. So I don't know where we end up. I'm just talking about all the things that have and will be discussed, and then it's not as simple as that. We want to expand it to 14 or 16. There's a lot of dynamics at play here: calendar, revenue, the NFL, title game, how each league can get. Is each league left up to what does the regular season look like? Would it behoove the Big 12 to come up with a scheduling alliance with the ACC, which is what we talked about some last week a bit? Like, should Texas Tech run out and go, okay, either we really need this, or hey man, let's just try to go do a scheduling alliance with somebody and we can sell this or something. But call up Miami, hey man, let's play you guys every year for the next 12 years. Call up Florida State. Again, you may have more interest than they would, but you get what I'm saying. There's just a lot of moving parts and a lot of dynamics at play here with some of this.
I consider it good news for a program like Tech or a program similar to Texas Tech. Your shot at one of 2 spots in the Big 12, say, versus your shot if you had been already swept up in an SEC net at one of those 4 spots, I feel like it's more favorable in your reality you're in right now. I know the path to it, and that's just some speculation, obviously, but I know your path to it has been rocky and uncomfortable, but I think it's good news for Texas Tech, or would be a good format for Texas Tech compared to previous circumstances. I think I continue to hedge that way.
Right. Because had something similar been in play in 2008, I think you're potentially still invited to the party instead in one of your best years, and you're relegated to the Cotton Bowl against a pretty good Ole Miss team, and it's just almost felt like okay, we'll go do this. Yeah. I don't know. And what does this all do to the bowl game system and all? I don't know about all that, but there's a lot to factor in and a lot to consider. But for Texas Tech, it may not necessarily be a bad thing, although I can see how the general Big 12 fan was like, this sucks. I feel like we're being, held down or whatever. But again, I just don't think there's anything you can do about it.
Just get a grip, man. If that's you out there, get a grip. Check the numbers, and what are you going to do after that? Get a grip.
Get more gold. Yeah, get more gold.
Yeah, I guess. Or send Brett Yormark some ideas for more gold gathering missions, whatever that looks like.
You've got Big 12 schools that are basically already saying, we talked about this too, we may not be able to pay the $20.5 million every year. We may need a loan But then you're telling me you're going to scoff at more access to the CFP, even though it's not as much as some of the other leagues. I mean, this is just the reality of the situation from where I'm sitting.
Would love to hear from you out there, how you're feeling about it, where you're agreeing or disagreeing in the YouTube comments, or shoot us a text if you are a Matador mobster. Just one of many things left unsettled as it relates to, I'd like to say, the far off or the distant future of college sports, but no, it's sort of the immediate future of college sports. We got about an 18-month window or something, I guess, to maybe decide on some of these things, but we will circle back to this. I'm almost certain of it on an upcoming episode. Chris, appreciate the time as always. Enjoyed it. Still a lot to get to this week as we're just getting started. So looking forward to the next one, and we'll see you then.
Absolutely. Sounds good. We'll have a good week around here. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time. Keep hope alive, people.
Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thanks to the everydayers for always being out there. And a shout out to the Matador Mob as well. If you're interested in joining that crew, you can hit the show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial. That's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks as always for the time, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.